Welcome to Talk Design Podcast, the space where creativity meets conversation. I'm Adrian Ramsay, your host, and as someone deeply entrenched in the world of design, I'm thrilled to introduce you to the minds that inspire me in the hope that they will spark something special within you too. From a design past crafting women's swimwear to pushing the boundaries of performance sportswear, from mountaineering to international yachting, to implementing systematic innovation solutions that transcend boundaries in aerospace industry. My heart remains rooted in architecture, and exploring the emotional tapestry woven by built spaces is my fascination. My journey in design has been what can only be described as a life of design. I want to thank you for lending me your ears. I'm eager to embark on this next episode together. My guest on Talk Design today is Danielle Mercurio. Now, Danielle is from Austin, Texas. She is known as an energy architect. Now, I could get right into what that's about, but I have no idea. I do have an idea because we've been chatting. What it is part Feng Shui, and it's part like quantum physics, and then part vibe curation. Now, I understand, I won't say I understand a lot, a little about Feng Shui, and a little about quantum physics, but I don't understand anything about vibe curation. So, Danielle, welcome to the show. And I just want to kick straight off. Tell us about the vibe.
I mean, I don't understand how you don't understand what a vibe is. You know, a vibe. When you walk into your space, what's the vibe?
Right.
And based on that answer, let's curate the space accordingly so that every time you walk in the door, that vibe is known. That vibe understands the assignment. That vibe echoes right back to you. And so that's how I like to see it.
Ooh, I like that. I like that a lot. So I'm thinking you've got me thinking. I want to bounce back to real questions beyond this as well. But first of all, I need to explore.
Yes.
You know, when you go to, say, a restaurant or a bar, and it has a vibe. It's a curated vibe.
Hmm.
And you go to some people's homes and there's a vibe. And I wouldn't say often, I've regularly had people say to me, they'll show me a picture of something like an artist's loft.
Hmm.
And, this person is a high creative, not the person who's asking me. The person who's asking me is not a high creative, is not like full of visual style and things, but they're looking at a photo of, say, some loft or some amazing space, and they're saying, I want that. They have an imagination that says, I want that. And
Hmm.
one of the things I say to them about when it's like an artist's loft is, I can do that for you, but you can't shift anything. You
Hmm.
Because it will die in that moment.
Yeah.
And so I say, so it's not for you, because
Mm-mm.
an artist just has this weird ability to put a pair of high heel shoes on top of I don't know, whatever that's sitting on a coffee table, and
Mhm.
they might have a piece of underwear. Who knows? Who knows what it will
Sounds like a good
be?
time.
Yeah, it sounds
That
sounds
sounds like that
like
might have just been a beautiful night that turned into art.
yeah, yeah, exactly. But that kind of thing where everything with style has an artistic value, and then this ability to kind of mash it together with what seems like no formal structure,
Right.
but their minds and their vision is so clear. They'll just position something and it's right. Doesn't look out of place, and yet it is out of place. you
Hmm.
know this is
Yes.
and I say to people, this is vibe creation, what you're talking about. To me, I go, yes, can do it for you, but I can't make you understand how it's done, and you may never, or you won't be able to do it yourself, because of the fact that it's not inherently built into who you are as a person. It's
Exactly.
not. Yeah. So yeah.
Yes. It doesn't come from your field. Part of why that works so well for the artist is it's being expressed from their field. And the
Right.
more that they do that in that space, it creates this currency where it's understood that everything I present, everything that I piece together becomes art and there's an isness to it.
Oh, I like that. An isness. An
Mhm.
isness. So there you go. That's vibe creation.
That is.
But with that, so if you're listening, you just tuned in, with that, probably ask yourself about these kind of things for yourself. Like, so what is your understanding of like Feng Shui? What is your understanding of quantum physics? And when you get vibe creation, my fastest one is go to a bar, go to a curated space, any of those. I'm thinking of one in particular in Austin. Can't think of the name of it, but it's the like Tiki Hut one, where it's the Japanese restaurant, and they do
Yes.
all these amazing, your meal comes out and it's got smoke all over it, and it's like comes in
Yes.
it, and that is
I
vibe
know exactly what
creation
you're
at
talking about.
extreme. Yeah.
Yes.
I've been there a couple of times, and it is an experiential space and experience, when you're
Yes.
eating, when you're doing everything, you're watching everybody's table to see what's going on. um
Exactly. And when you've been there once and you decide to go again, you go back because of that vibe that was curated. And even when you're thinking about who do I want to come with me, you're now thinking about the vibe that they bring and with their vibe, then meet the vibe of this place.
yeah.
Now, I don't use
Or
vibe. It's making me
will it
sound like I
even
use the word
clash?
vibe all the time. But yes, it's a way to read energy and then based on that, make choices.
Yeah, I did a job a couple of years ago for some people, and they had it was a really interesting job. They gave me this job, and it was yeah, shifting, a whole bunch of walls, and yeah, stripping out. It was actually an apartment, stripping out an entire apartment and putting it back together. But what they did is they gave me the keys and a loose budget and said, "Surprise us. We'll be back in 6 months." And I'm like, "What do you mean surprise us?" And they said, "Well, here's some things we'd like to use in there, but you just do whatever you're going to do, and
Mhm.
we'll open the door and get the surprise." And I'm like, "Oh, okay, yeah, right. Okay." We did it really
Mhm.
successfully. One of the things they had was a whole bunch of art. And they said, I said, "So with this art," "Oh, you don't have to use any of it. It's fine." And it was all photographs. It was in a storage shed. And
Mhm.
I said, "Oh, okay. Is there any in particular that you really like?" And she said to me, "There's this big nude. Like it would be, um, it's two women, and they've got tarot cards kind of falling between them,
Mhm.
and it's by a Spanish artist. And
Uh-huh.
with it, um, she said to me, the nude doesn't go in the bedroom." And I'm like,
Okay.
"Right." And she goes, "I'm not competing with that shit. Like, I'm not doing that." And I'm like, "Right, okay." So that was pretty funny.
Understood.
And I said, "But is the nude important?" And they both said, "Well, only because of how much it cost." And I'm like,
Hmm.
"Right." And they said, "Yeah,
Interesting.
it's really valuable." And out of all our artworks, it's one of only about four pieces that's insured separately. I'm like, "Okay, cool." So anyway, I go to the container, the shed, sorry, the shed, no. I have a look at all these bits of art. So I unpack, there's this massive nude, like massive. And I'm like, "Right, where am I going to use this?" And these two are naughty in the sense of they love to make people engage. They
Hmm.
they love that kind of like little push of discomfort.
Yeah.
She spends all her time rolling her eyes at him, but she's
Love
in
it.
on it. She is in on it. She's like
I'm,
she's probably worse than he is, but she plays the not me, it's all him."
mm, I'm here for it.
So I put it in the dining room, and the dining room piece, they they had a space where they had a bigger space, and then they had a space where it was just for dining for couples, two couples only.
Mhm.
That was their aim, and that had come out of our original talks. So it was for four people. And so I positioned it on, say, like the wall behind me, and I positioned his chair and her chair on the 45 as such. It was a circle, but on the 45, so that you could see straight to the painting. And guests get to sit and look at the painting. And so your guest sits there and looks at this massive nude all night, and
Hmm.
they get to f enjoy the somewhat discomfort of some guests, the
Yes.
somewhat oh wow of other guests.
Yes.
And when you come in the door of the place, you can't see it. It's not until you actually go to that
Like,
spot that it,
and
it
you turn.
reveals itself.
I like it. I love the dining room because it makes me think like feast on this.
Yeah, yeah, I love that. I love that.
Hmm.
And look, they when they came back and they were like, "Oh wow,
Uh-huh.
look at what you've done."
Hmm.
And I said to them, "So you're there, that's your seat, and then that's the guest seat." They just their eyes just lit up and twinkled and were just like, "Oh yeah, we love that.
Oh, that sounds spectacular.
We love how fun that is to just play with
Hmm.
people." Yeah,
Yeah.
gently.
Yeah.
They're not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What a
Um,
great project.
it was a lot of fun and a lot of
Mhm.
a high level of unsurety and insecurity in doing it as well because I didn't know
Sure.
them very well.
Okay.
I met them twice before they did that.
Yeah, so you had to rely on that inner knowing and your own intuition around how you were feeling into the space and what you were connecting the
Yeah,
dots around who they may be,
yeah.
which is,
Or who
yeah,
I
I'm
might
sure that
want them
struck
to
you.
be.
Yeah, who do you want them to be, right?
Uh,
So it's like how much of your agenda goes into it
mm,
versus, how
mm.
much of what who they may truly be
Yes,
is.
exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway, we'll get back to those kind of pieces because
Mhm.
that is something that, process can take you through to learn. Um,
Absolutely.
Jump me back to
Okay.
you were this little kid
Little kid.
and you were staring at the stars or whatever it was, you were feeling the earth under your feet. Where did you come from
Yeah.
and how did you get to here?
Yeah, so I was born on the West Coast. I was actually born in Seattle. I was born, if anyone knows about this, during my mother's Saturn return while I was on my Saturn line. And we were in between homes at the time, so I literally lived in a hotel the first 2 weeks of my life.
Oh,
So
wow.
I didn't start this world with like a solid home base. There was no bringing baby home. What's interesting to me though, hotels often feel more like home for me than an actual home. I find that very often. So all that to say, it started off from that perspective, and then we did move around a lot when I was little. But my first conscious memories living in LA, and every night before bed, my favorite thing to do was to look out at the stars. There was something about that outer landscape that just felt fascinating and also comforting. There was
Mm.
something that brought me a sense of ease before I would go to sleep in looking at the stars. And so that was always like my little fascination. But I didn't do much more with it until got a little bit older at the grocery store with my mom, and they had those astrology scrolls. I don't
Uh-huh.
know if you
Yeah,
remember those
yeah,
little
yeah,
books.
yeah, yeah.
So I saw one, my birthday's August 9th, saw Leo, showed it to my mom, and I'm like, "Okay, mom, I want this. This is my birthday book." And she looked at it immediately and was like, "That's not for you."
Oh,
So,
really? Why?
yeah, she was not about it. She was not about it. But there was this part of me. I mean, I was like 5 years old and I needed it. So I did wind up taking it, which, sorry, grocery store, uh, for that. And I will never forget taking it and going to my room, closing the door, and reading what I could about what it meant to be a Leo. And I just remember thinking, when I grow up, this is who I'm going to be. And I became so obsessed with this star system, with this idea of being a Leo. I started learning that, oh, if you go to the bookstore, there are sections that talk about this star language. And so I would just spend all of my time studying and researching it when I could. And at the same time, though, it was very secret because I immediately learned when my mom said, that's not for you. It was kind of like, well, this system isn't technically for you. So if you're going to learn it, it has to be secret. And so that was really fascinating for me, right? To have
Mm.
that feeling of I was plugging into something that felt so natural, so organic, and I was always in my own little world when I was doing it. Whether it was a book that I took out from the library or bought myself, I would hide in my room and read it, or I would hide in the little like, you know,
Yeah.
what are those called? Those little book spaces.
Yeah, like a
And
window seat or whatever, like that.
yes,
Yeah, somewhere
yes,
where you
and
can
just
get away.
yeah, so it felt like it felt like a way for me to connect the dots between what I would feel when I looked out the window and then I would be reading about it. And so it was just this constant. curiosity and this constant wonderment of wanting to know more about this world. I started learning about more metaphysical concepts, the Aquarian age. I learned about New Agers and crystals, and a lot of it felt in some ways like fantasy, in other ways like this world that I belonged in, but
Hmm.
I felt very isolated from at the same time. And so that was really my experience up until college. And then it wasn't until I started to come into my own a little bit more as I started to get closer to my Saturn return. I started to really ask myself, how am I being the Leo? Because I don't think I'm being the Leo. I'm just kind of still going along with what society is telling me to do. But I'm not really doing anything that feels like that hidden world. I'm not doing anything that feels like the Leo. I mean, I went to school for elementary ed. Like I was just trying to still do what was quote unquote right, but not really. You know what I mean?
Yeah, 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 100%, 100%. And now we're going down rabbit hole here because
Yes.
I'm
So
also a Leo, and
you are.
yeah,
Of course you
and my birthday's 25th of July,
are.
so
Okay.
right on the cusp. But I would
Mm-hmm.
be a fairly atypical Leo, I think.
Hmm.
So there's
Yeah.
got a 12th of the audience has got to be Leos, I'm guessing. In fact, I would bet that probably a higher portion than 12th is Leos because
Yes.
it's it's like Christmas sex. It's that's about
It,
where that lands. Yeah.
yes, it
It lands
is.
somewhere around that, or
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
pre-Christmas, it's that
It's
nine
spiked
months.
eggnog,
Yeah,
sit on
yeah,
Santa's lap,
yeah.
all of it.
It's all that
Mm-hmm.
kind of thing. So
Mm-hmm.
if we, with it being the eighth month, like, so mine, yeah, like if you look at that and
Ish.
go, yeah, it's that lead up to this festive season, and in your case it's getting colder, in my case it's getting warmer. And
Mm-hmm.
I know from friends of mine it's like this clustering of birthdays around
Yes.
these times, these
Mm-hmm.
clustering points.
Hmm.
um
Yeah.
with that, tell me what would be some of those sort of atypical Leo traits that A, you felt you were not living, and B, that you felt that and now that you live, maybe is a better way of forming that question, is like that you, how did you allow yourself to drop into that star
Yeah.
sign, and what does
Mm-hmm.
that mean? What's
Yeah.
give us some atypical Leo
Sure.
things. Yeah,
Yes. And for more context, I'm a Leo sun, moon, and rising.
right.
So I really feel like that's part of why I was drawn to it so deeply. What I wasn't doing, and the thing is, Leos kind of get a rap for being like loud or ego or, but really what a Leo is someone that is able to express their light, that is able to allow themselves to be visible, to be seen. And once that spotlight is on them, they're able to present things to the world in a way that people haven't seen before. That's why many people that are Leos do unique things, or they may do things that everyone, architect or teacher or actor, but there's something that they present in a way that is special, that is uniquely theirs, that they bring to it. And that was the key thing that I was missing. I was denying myself that unique part of me, and I was denying myself to be seen because there was still that part of me that was like, it's not allowed. I was very much in the shadow of Leo, and the
Hmm.
shadow of Leo is the cowardly lion, spineless, is hiding in the shadows and hiding in the shadows as a way to fit in. And that's literally what I was doing. I was hiding in the shadows to fit in, and I was miserable. And I was constantly looking for ways to escape it, but I was looking for unhealthy ways to escape it because I didn't know any better at that time, right? But the more I
Mm.
did that, the more I just kept feeling every morning when I woke up, I was like, maybe today's the day the light would turn on. I always would say that. I say, maybe today's the day the light will turn on. And
Yeah,
I would just
right.
hope for that. I would hope for that. But it wasn't until, just things just started escalating with not taking care of myself, with feeling more in the shadows, with that lack of, feeling like I know that I'm here to do something different. And because I'm here to do something different, there's no manual for that. There's no guidebook for that. Or at least in my life, there wasn't anyone showing me that. And so because of that, I just felt like, well, maybe this is just the life where I just hide in the shadows and I watch everybody else. And then maybe in another life I get to shine, which sounds very, limiting, but that was my perspective in my
Hmm.
early to mid 20s. And then it wasn't until, things just kind of kept pushing at me, pushing at me, pushing at me until I finally decided, you know what, let me get help. Let me stop drinking. Let's try being healthy. Let's go to therapy. And it was actually my therapist at the time that started teaching me how to be a Leo and teaching me how to use my voice and how to bridge in more confidence and speak up for what it is that I wanted and allow myself to be part of this world in a way that I was constantly denying myself. And it was through that then I started to realize I want to help others do the same.
Yeah,
And that's how it
interesting.
started to happen. That was
Yeah,
the
wow.
bridge. Hmm.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's such a cool journey. Um, and I think so insightful for people listening, about, partly finding your true self. Uh,
Hmm.
and that's always an evolving thing.
Yes,
But
absolutely.
then there's the foundation of your true self. And I certainly know as a Leo, um, there are times that I have gone into hiding, and it's generally, I think, contextual to situational stuff. Um, and yeah, there is definitely this thing where in social things you could easy dominate.
Hmm.
And I have a very deliberate thing of not, like a very deliberate thing of not dominating a social situation. My own energy will be enough that I'm present, and people know that I'm there. But
Hmm.
I go, um, everything's to be learnt, nothing's to be taught. So in a social
Absolutely.
situation, I go, what can I learn as opposed to what can I teach? And
Yes.
yeah, become far more other than when I was like, I want to say 19 or 20 or something like that, become far more the observer than the performer. Yeah.
Absolutely. And
Mm.
that's an evolving trait of a Leo is
Mm.
the observer, is being able to walk in the room and be humble and observe and still
Mm.
be on
Mm.
and themselves and all of those different aspects, but it's not trying to get the attention. It's not being showy.
Mm.
It's literally, I'm here. I made a choice to be here. If a Leo is somewhere, it's because they want to be there.
Yeah.
And this is
Yeah.
very true. We don't just, yeah. So there was an intentional choice to be there. And then there is that observation. And then
Mm.
from there, deciding, when it's time to maybe turn the light up a little bit more or even dim it down a
Sure.
little bit,
Or dim it
depending,
down. Yeah. Yeah.
and then clearly if it's a stage or a platform where it's for you and you are to truly be on, then that's a
That,
beautiful experience for
I
the
think
people
that's
involved.
that also, like, I love speaking from the stage.
Hmm.
I love that keynote kind of piece. One of the
Yes.
things with that um, is the ability to be, I, I want to say perform, and it's not perform because it is, but it has to be so authentic so that people
Yes.
get an energy transfer. It's not
Yep.
about um, hiding in any way. It's about, this is I'm going to give you a piece of all of me, and
Yes.
everybody out there, whether there's 100 or 600 or whatever number of
Yeah.
people,
Or
if
10.
yeah, everybody out there, I'm going to deliver something,
Yes.
and you're going to get my sort of, I want to say, the full authenticity and energy of me
Yeah.
around
The full
around sort of,
transmission.
yeah, around, yes.
Whatever topic may be. And I imagine that things come through that weren't
Oh,
premeditated either, right? And that's the beauty of it as well. My favorite part about speaking is the things I didn't plan to say that,
yeah, yeah, me
and
too.
that's right? And that's because of the interaction and also knowing that what's going to come through is also what the audience is receptive to. So that energetic exchange like you're
Yeah,
talking about.
yeah.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
is. It's an amazing space to be in.
Hmm.
Um, and I think that, like I have I don't know whether you do this, but I have routines to position myself with my energy points and all those things to before I walk up on the stage. I had this
Mhm.
fun one just recently. I've got to tell this little story. I
Okay.
I, I wanted there's a big room, like I don't know, 650 people or something, and then an online audience as well.
Mhm.
And anyway, I somebody in the audience that I knew uh, is a helicopter pilot and has their own helicopter. And anyway,
Mhm.
so and it's a woman, a friend of mine, and we work together on different projects. And anyway, I wanted to do something that was kind of a nod to her and a bit of fun. So I found a soundtrack of a Hughes helicopter landing. And so it's a bit like MASH, chug, 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 chug,
Uh-huh.
chug, 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 chug.
Yeah.
And so I've got them introducing me on stage, and I'm right at the back of the room, and the screen just goes dark, and it's got sort of starlights kind of like moving across it or out from it, just little bits. So it's a black screen, introductions going, and then this helicopter starts. And I just stand, I just wait and I wait. And so the person introducing me's got to stand and wait too. And they're looking for me to start moving, and I'm
Right,
not
right.
moving. And then, I kind of bounce onto the stage, and say thank you to them. And I said to the crowd, I've always wanted to arrive by helicopter, and that's as close as we're going to get today. So that was my kind of opening piece,
Hmm.
I've always wanted to arrive by helicopter. And so just sort of setting something up, but it was a fun way of setting something up. Um,
Exactly. Unique.
yeah, and then later on, I referenced my friend about about her and being a helicopter pilot and stuff as part of my stories of that I was telling around things. But that was a
Mhm.
real Leo thing as well, making the
So much so.
uncomfortable pause at the start so that it was like
Mhm.
anticipation, then a little bit more, and then is it going to happen? And
Yeah.
then arriving, and this really loud helicopter sound. Yeah.
Oh,
That's
I
kind of
love that.
playing with setting it up and creating
Absolutely.
theater and drama. Yeah.
Yes, and holding space. And one of the things that is really important too is also closing it, right? The
Mm-hmm.
closing of the container.
Mm. Yeah, very
That's
much
just as
so.
important too, right? And also receiving at the end.
Yes.
One of the things I used to do, and I didn't realize that a friend called me out. He goes, Danielle, you always run off the stage at the end. And I was like, I do? And in my head, I'm like, job done. I gave them everything.
Yeah.
And it was all about them, right? And how am I giving to them? And he's like, yes, and now let us close it out for you and give to
Right.
you. And he's like, I need you to stand there longer and really receive before you exit the stage. And that has
That's
always
a
stayed with me.
I'm taking that
Hmm.
because it is like if you don't, it's like you're not honoring them again. It's like
Exactly.
I've done my job, I'm finished here. Instead
Right?
of letting them thank you for doing your job.
Hmm.
It's
Yes,
it's like
exactly.
the somebody who gives you a gift and you go, oh, thanks very much, and then that's your acknowledgement.
Hmm.
Or
Hmm.
yeah, I'll open it later.
Yes.
This kind
Hmm.
of like, oh, where's my
Hmm.
worthiness kind of piece. And
Hmm.
we
Yes.
we need to talk about energy architecture.
I know this has turned into, I guess, public speaking 101 somehow.
Well, I think one of the things is it's an energy conversation, and with it
Absolutely.
being this energy conversation, it's what you bring into a space and what you take from a space. Um, I certainly can relate to, your thing of looking at the stars.
Hmm.
And on my podcast, there's a podcast with Rick Joy, the architect Rick Joy. And Rick talks about one of his favorite spaces is to lie in the bottom of a canyon where the walls of
Hmm.
the canyon hold
Oh.
the place, and then you get the stars above. So you get a piece of the sky, not all the sky. Yeah,
Yeah.
you can feel it.
Well,
And
yes.
Rick is a master architect. He's a visionary. Um, and then that weight that he likes around rammed earth and these materials. And when he said it to me, it did that thing to me as well. I'm like, oh,
Mhm.
Jesus, yeah, okay, I get that. And I have the same thing of, what is that, what's this, the sky bringing me? What's happening in that space, and that
Mhm.
ability to drift with it without getting too woo-woo, about being able to drift with it and into it, and be pulled into it. Um,
Mhm.
and these are things that it's so easy to block in life
Sure. Yes.
because they don't
Very much so.
necessarily fit,
The
you know.
mold.
Yeah. So
Mhm.
with that, take me on some sort of journey
Yes.
with land, the energy of land,
Yeah.
and tell me how you work with that
Mhm.
and some insights into it,
Yeah.
that yeah, that help your clients.
Yes. So I really very much believe that just as much as we want to take care of our physical bodies, as much as we have to realize it's called a household for a reason. Our house is holding us.
Oh,
So if that's the case, hmm, how is that being set up? And how healthy is that house that's holding you? And how is the foundation looking? And based on the foundation, what is the land story that's around it? And so for me, it started with I've been nomadic very often. And every time I would go into a space, whether it's a hotel or an Airbnb, immediately I would read the energy of the space and then recalibrate it in such a way so that it felt like mine for the time that I was there. Right.
oh, you gotta, yeah, yeah. Don't brush over that. Tell me about that. Are
Okay.
you one of those people who gets to the hotel and shifts all the furniture?
I don't. Well, sometimes, but it depends. It's really annoying when the ones I don't know if they do it as much anymore, but back in the day, I feel like they would like cement the
Screw
chair in,
everything down. Yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
exactly. Like
Those were
the
cheap.
lamps,
Those were
yeah,
cheaper hotels so that you couldn't steal that stuff.
right, exactly, exactly. But no, if it's, I might move a thing or two
Yeah,
depending, or if there's some book, the Bible isn't in
yeah,
the drawer, or
yeah.
whatnot. But like if I am staying somewhere, let's say I'm staying in an Airbnb and I'm going to be there for at least a week or two
Mhm,
weeks, I take photos of everything beforehand, and that way I can put everything back. But what I do essentially, because this is going to be my home, this is going to be my residence, whether it's one night or
mhm,
30 nights or
mhm,
whatever it may be. I want to make sure that that space is able to hold me. And so if
mhm,
that's the case, it starts with me introducing myself. As soon as I walk in the door, I say hello. And I say it out loud. You can say it silently as well, but I say hello. Danielle is here. And it sounds cheesy, but it's you will feel a difference. Try it out with your own home or somebody somewhere else and just say, "Hello, I'm Danielle. I'm going to be staying here for this upcoming week.
yep,
I'm going to be here for the next 30 days. I'm going to be moving in
yep.
tomorrow, whatever it may be." And then you start to move around the space and start saying hello through every doorway, through every opening doors, and just peeking your energy in and getting familiar with the space and letting the space get familiar with you. I like to always bring a Bluetooth speaker with me. I start playing music that I like
Yeah.
so that my music is now starting to fill the space.
Your vibe.
My vibe, right?
Yeah,
I'm curating it with
yeah,
my vibe.
yeah.
And I just start to move through. And as I do, I also allow my field, my being, to start to take up some of the space as well. And then before you know it, the space starts to, whether it's like this unseen change,
Mm,
it's a felt change where all of a sudden it begins to respond to you and it begins to feel like yours. I
mm,
can't tell you how many times people have come to visit me in temporary spaces and they're like, wait, how long have you been here? It feels like you've been here for years, or this isn't your place. No. I mean, it is my place. It's my
Yeah.
current place of residence, but I have created the residence so that it responds to me so that I can do what I'm here to do. And so part of that is, yeah, working with the home in that way.
When you just
Very
said that,
simple.
you created the resonance or residence. The resonance is what you
Hmm.
created. You mixed the two energies. You took the energy of it and put your energy back. You blended it.
Exactly.
As a a word play in there.
Hmm.
Um, I
We
really
love
like
play on words.
yeah, I really love that. Being going and looking around a place and kind of blending your energy. I certainly know I will speak out loud in places. I don't do what you do, but maybe I'll try that. Um,
Try it out.
but with it, I often will go, I will often say something like, oh, that looks really nice. And it will be
Mhm.
something, a vignette of how something works. Or, oh, that's a beautiful mix of textures.
Mhm.
Um, that's I love the way the light, I love the way the light falls there. And I'm doing these observations, but
Yeah.
often out loud, often
I
out
love,
loud.
and
People
that's
will say to me,
beautiful.
what are you talking about? I go, oh, look at how that's happening.
Yeah.
Look at how that's happening. I'll be interested to see that in another 3 hours, or I'll look,
Yes.
I want to see what happens at night when that's
Mhm.
lit this way. And,
Yes.
all
Yes.
those things. Yeah,
And that engages the home and it helps it come online. And we've seen the studies where if you talk to plants,
sure.
they grow faster. Studies of yelling at water and
Yeah,
seeing that the crystals in the water become smaller. So
yeah.
our objects, our physical environments do absorb our emotions and they
Hmm.
have a response to them. So if that's the case, how do you want to move into that?
Do you remember years ago, King Charles of England, when he was still just Prince Charles, got really kind of, I don't know, publicly ousted on talking to his garden? And
Yes.
and then all these studies came out showing how it was actually energetically brilliant for the plants. And I'm
Yeah.
trying to think of the Japanese guy who did all the water studies with the
I know.
crystals. I can't think of it off the top
I
of my
wish I would
head.
have pulled his name. Yes. And
Yeah,
there's even studies that show that there's certain compounds in the soil that
yeah,
activate when we put our fingers into the soil, it
yeah,
activates serotonin in our
yeah,
brain and helps heighten it. So
yeah.
it's like it's there. The science is there.
Yeah, something I read the other day. So I'm a surfer, and is that, our tears and our sweat have the same. I don't know whether this is true, so anybody listening, correct me if this is just absolute BS. But our tears and our sweat have the same salt consistency or salt uh, quantity as the ocean. Now,
Interesting.
I've
Okay.
been in oceans that taste saltier in some parts than others. So who knows whether that's true? But if you took it as being, okay, that is our oneness with the universe, it's the same
Mm,
structure, um,
yes.
then maybe it's true. Maybe it's true. It's like I went to a property just recently, and there was this one tree that the bark on it grew around in a spiral.
Hmm.
And I'm
Yes.
like, obviously.
Yes.
And I'm like, so I'm walking past these different trees, and the lady I was with said, "Oh, you need to just check that tree out." And I'm like, "Oh, yeah, right." And I go, "Oh, wow, look at the bark." And she's like, "Yeah." And I said, "What's that about?" And she goes, "Well, hug it." And I'm like, "Oh, okay, sure." So I walk up to, and she goes, "Not like that." So I walked up to embrace it physically front
Hmm.
on.
Yes.
And I'm like, she goes, "No, not like that." And I said, "Sorry." And she goes, "That isn't how you hug a tree, not that tree." And I'm like, "Oh, okay. How do I hug this tree?" And she said, "Put your back to it and wrap your arms around it from behind." I'm like, "Why do I do
Yeah.
that?" She said, "It's a female tree." And it's giving you, say, it's you're allowing it into you fit to feel you, but you're not pushing against it. And I'm like, "How do you know it's a female tree?" And I said, "Is it, like biologically, is it a female tree because it does whatever?" She's like, "No, because of the spiral, and that's its
Exactly.
energy." And I'm like,
Mhm.
so why is that one not? And she goes, it might be a female tree as well, but it's not sitting on the same energy line, and therefore it doesn't spiral. But she goes, that is the tree. That is the master tree in this group of
Yes.
trees.
Yes. And
And I've
look,
never come across that before. And so now I'm looking always for it. And yeah, I often do the respect of hugging a tree backwards rather than forwards. Like
yes.
instead of
Yes.
male dominant, like, here I am.
Right. And
Sometimes I
kind of
do
just,
that. It's like be gentle,
sure.
lean against it and put your arms
That
backwards around it.
yes, trees prefer tenderness,
Yeah, right. Yeah.
tender touch. And they're just happy that you're even giving them attention in that way.
Yeah, it's so fascinating that the harmonics of whatever that is um,
Yes.
feeds both sides of the equation. It's good for you
Absolutely.
and it's good for the tree.
Absolutely. Yes, it's mutually nourishing. And then in turn, it's also good for the foundation and the land underneath it, the
Hmm.
complete grid that's, it's
Hmm.
operating on top of because it's going to now go into the roots. And then the roots are going to start to communicate out to the rest of that field.
Mm. Yeah, right.
Hmm.
Mm. I'm
It's another
thinking
way to
to,
restore land.
yeah, I'm thinking of
Hmm.
how with it, and when I'm doing my land whispering process,
Yes.
how
Hmm.
you're energetically feeling and talking with the land and how surface it is versus how deep it goes, and also
Yes.
your ability to leave a part behind.
Exactly. Yes. Yes. Hmm.
Mm. Tell me more.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Okay, let's talk. Well, speaking of trees and land, I'll give an example here in Austin recently. So I moved to this part of Austin in spring equinox.
Uh-huh.
And I live in Barton Hills, right by, like, kind of leading up to Barton Springs.
Uh-huh.
And we have the Barton, was it the Greenbelt, Barton Creek,
Yeah,
Greenbelt?
sure. Yeah.
Sometimes I don't know the labels
Yeah.
of what we humans call land. And I knew right away that I was moved to this apartment, to this area, because this needed to be in my backyard. And a lot of times what happens is you get like a ping, or like, you need to live here, or at least that's how I feel. I need to live here so that this land can be restored. And usually what I do is I just start by like simply walking on
Hmm.
the land, listening, not having music, not being on my phone. And so that was what I moved spring. Around late May, started to get hot here in Austin. And I'm like, ooh, I don't know how I feel about this. I feel like this isn't supposed to be a hot summer, but it was already creeping up. I think the forecast that day was going to be like 96 degrees or something.
Oh,
And I was like, I don't know how I feel about this. This just doesn't feel right, which is not normal because most people expect in Austin it's going to be hot. So working the grids, and I'm like, let me talk to the land and see what it has to say about that. So I was moving through this one specific spot of the trail, and I was tapping in, listening to the trees, listening to the way the roots were coming into the trail, and all I kept hearing was, we're inflamed. We're inflamed. We're inflamed. We're inflamed. We're overheated. We're overheated. We need to cool down. So I'm like,
right.
okay, we need to cool down.
Cut the
So what I
sugar out of
started,
your diet.
seriously, come on, get that sap out.
Yeah.
So I just started doing just that. I just started using my own body, my own connection, and started bringing cooling energy to the trail. And I just started doing that over and over again. And I just kept saying, I'm giving you cooling energy, I'm allowing you to cool down, I'm healing the inflammation. And that day, the temperature was supposed to be 96 degrees. It dropped to 89. It only got up to 89 degrees that day.
Yeah, right.
And I kept doing it. We had one of this past summer, we had
Hmm.
one of
Hmm.
the lower temperature, like it really didn't break 100 that much.
Hmm.
And I thought that was an interesting correlation based on what I was doing.
Hmm.
And I felt that was pretty impressive on my part. I felt like, but it shows that what can happen, the land will respond if you are willing to really listen and just simply with your own energy provide what it needs. And we were talking about this earlier, like you don't believe that imagination really is real. If you imagine it, it exists. And in that moment, I imagined that I was giving cooling energy to this land, therefore it existed. Therefore it did cool down, and therefore
Mm.
it had an effect on the
Mm.
area.
Isn't that fascinating?
Hmm.
I know parallels, but not so deliberately um, constructed. But yeah, there's parallels that I can think of that have happened with me, but not where I've tried to take control of it. But like people will say to me, "Oh, it's really hot today." So you think Austin is like humid? Austin's not humid. Like people say, "Oh, it's so humid in Austin." I go, "You want to come live where
I
I
don't
live?"
think,
This is more
yeah,
like
I don't think
Florida, where it gets
so.
really humid. Um, but Austin, I do love the climate there because I've been there when it's had snow, and I've been there when it's like, over the 100. I
Hmm.
One of the things, when you talk about heat is I think that architecture has a responsibility to be closely associated with the climate and its natural ability to create shade and cool and those things without mechanical. And this will, for some people, they'll go, "Oh, you got to be nuts." Um, I go with the architecture if we can make it respond to its climate conditions. The the width of what we live in usually isn't so high. So you think in Austin, you might get a big freeze or something like that. And that would be extreme, very rare, but extreme. But most years it'll get down low enough that it's, cold,
Sure.
like really cold. And then we'll get to what we would call hot, like really hot. And so to design something that allows for that climatic shift without having to be relied on mechanical ventilation systems and stuff, um, is, I suppose, the biggest journey of like designing things. How's it going to work in this environment? And
Yes.
again, this is like listening to the land piece. When you're walking on the land, I certainly I actually, Jeffrey Dungan, the architect, said this to me really early on in my podcasting thing. You stand there and the house just pops out of the landscape.
Hmm.
And I'm like, yeah. And he's like, it kind of built itself. You've already, you've read what's gonna. Now he designs and builds very, very, very formal style homes, um, beautiful, beautiful structures. But they could have been there for 300 years or 100 years really easily, and they would have been this high quality craftsman style structure then, and they are now. But he said,
Hmm.
you know how it happens, like as if we're all seeing the world from the same plane and it builds itself. I'm like, I do know how that happens. I see that all the
Yes.
time. Every time I look at a piece of land, that we're going to build on, I go, oh, I can imagine this here, these shapes, these pieces, and then I'm looking at how that would respond to this climate, um, for making it the right space. But that does it kind of builds itself in front of you. It
That's a great way to look at it. Hmm.
yeah, but not. I get not everybody does that, and it
No, partly because it's never really been taught or presented to look at it that way.
maybe, yeah. I think there's an innate thing, like one of my all-time favorites of architects and people is Nicole Blair from Austin, and she never sees the world um, the way everybody else does. She's Every time I talk to her or see what she's doing, I go, damn, I want more of what she brings to that space in me. She's got,
Mm.
yeah, she's got a vision and the way she sees things and the way she plays with shapes and
Mm.
yeah, yeah. It's always something that inspires. Yeah. So anyway, yes, back to land, that thing of, the heat thing.
Mhm.
How do we operate within comfort but without falsifying our environment?
Absolutely. Yes. And I found in that situation, I was just responding to a need, to a
Mm.
request. And I was trusting that based on that request, based on me providing that cooling, it would know what to do from there. It would recalibrate accordingly, that nothing
Mm.
extreme would happen. It wasn't like I was trying to go in and manipulate. It wasn't like I was trying to eradicate summer, but I was just helping with the request of we just need it a little
Just,
bit cooler.
yeah, we're
Just,
stressed.
10 degrees. That's all we're asking here. We're not trying to, yeah, disrupt the ecosystem or anything in that way. But what I felt, I mean, they just felt the roots just felt so thick and so inflamed, like inflamed's the best word.
Yeah.
They were like, we just need a moment to come back down a little bit, to
Mm.
just soften, to
Mm.
just create some space outside of what, unfortunately, we're taking up space in the wrong way.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so let's, shh.
We're feeling the pressure of it. Yeah.
Yes, they're feeling the pressure.
Mm.
Absolutely. Yes, that was a big thing too. And because so many people in a beautiful way use the trails, sometimes that can also create more of
Mm.
that
Hmm.
pressure.
It brings a lot of different energy into the space.
It
It,
does.
yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. And
Hmm.
I think of in Zion National Park, I was
Oh
hiking
yeah.
there and came across
Uh-huh.
the spot where everybody goes and gets married. I had no idea that's where everybody goes and gets married. It's like Point
Okay.
Lookout or something.
Hmm.
And in that spot, there was like five weddings going on in this spot. And so I'm sitting there observing it all, and
Hmm.
I'm very conscious of the energy and expectation and joy that every person is bringing to it,
Yes.
but then also the photographer bringing the tension and
Mm.
that they're on point. They're not necessarily nervous, but their energy is very different from the couple that's getting married. They're trying to get it right for their photographer. Um,
Yes.
to capture the moment, and the photographer's got the
Hmm.
energy of, oh shit, I've got to get this. And
Right.
just looking at that dynamic, but then watching them arrive at the spot
Hmm.
where they had to scramble over rocks and stuff. And so there's brides with gowns, and there's like,
Yeah.
and they're in boots or whatever, and they're coming in, different shoes and changing them, and this sort
Hmm.
of ceremony part of it. It was
Yeah.
um it was a really interesting piece to just sit on the rock
And
and uh,
witness.
and become part of the rock to witness it. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I love Zion. I spent actually stayed there for 3 months
Oh,
a few years back, and it
yeah,
was such a cool experience for me. And I feel like that was a big step for me in working with the land, in literally living in Zion.
yeah. That's
Yeah,
interesting.
yeah,
It's certainly in my top like few places in the world to go.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. What was your favorite hike there?
Oh, look, I think for the challenge, um, obviously the Narrows.
Sure.
Um, and in my first trip up the Narrows, my shoe disintegrated. So,
Mm,
don't take your
yeah.
old hiking shoes. Um,
No.
but there's something about being in water and it's flowing, not necessarily strong, but
No.
points you get
Yeah.
up to your waist deep kind of thing.
Sure.
And
Yeah.
then also being able to get to pieces where you're touching rock on either side, but the sky's obscured because the rock's moving.
Mm-hmm.
There is
Mm-hmm.
something, some enormous, I would say, hug in that space. There's something about kind of letting go and letting be, like
Yeah.
in that space. And I always say to people, it's never about breathing in, it's always about how deeply you can breathe out
Mm.
and let go of something. And that carries an absolute probably some of my calmest energy that I can go right back to that. Very, very calm, very, very a kind of an excitedness like underlying all that, and
Yeah.
a huge gratitude of that there's places like this that I could go and experience, even that I had the
Exactly.
ability to experience it. And
Yeah.
my first time on Angel's Landing,
Mm.
um, I took like a packed lunch up there, and I was due to have a knee replacement operation not long after that. And so I busted up my knee over many years of playing basketball and racing BMX and skiing and all kinds of things. Anyway, I knew it was coming. So the actual walk up was actually a bit of a trial for me,
Sure.
just because of that. And
Hmm.
but I took up there like a lunch, my packed lunch in my backpack, and just found a spot. So I'm an extrovert. I'm quite happy around people and all the rest, but just found a spot to just be with the rock and kicked back, lay on it,
Yeah.
and ate my lunch, but lay on the rock and just, I don't know, let it soak through me. And so it
Mm.
holds a really special kind of peace, because when I got there, I was like, oh yeah, okay, cool. This is amazing, of course, because of the challenge
Right.
and all the rest. It's what you'd
Yes.
expect. It's an event. Um, but then to kind of just let myself become very, very slow, my breathing right down, and meditating and sitting there or lying there actually. Um,
Yeah.
and just soaking it in. Again, probably more gratitude than anything for the
Yes.
for the
Yes.
opportunity to do these things. And then
Hmm.
there's just tons of spots in the park
Oh, absolutely.
that are not sort of identifiable spots. They're just
Yes.
spots where
Those
I go, oh yeah,
little
yeah.
yummy pockets.
Yeah,
Yes.
there's those waterfalls and stuff, and you just go,
Definitely.
oh yeah, just
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Mm.
I think the longest I've ever spent there's a week, and go coming
Mhm.
and going every day. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I've been
Yeah.
multiple times. Yeah.
Yeah. It's one of those places, to your point, that what's beautiful, and this is anyone that, if you connect with land anywhere. Once you connect, you can always return to it. You just have to close your eyes and it doesn't disappear. It doesn't fade from your memory. It is now imprinted in your
Yeah.
being.
Yeah.
And so you can sit, we can literally close our eyes now. And I did the same
Mm.
thing. Actually, someone took a photo of me because they saw me laying on
Yeah.
top of Angel's Landing. He goes, can I, and once I was done, he was like, can you do that again? I want to take a photo because you look so peaceful. And so it stays with us in these beautiful ways, and you become one with these environments. And then,
I sort of, I think it's so bloody contrite and curated because it's Angel's Landing. And
sure,
then I remind myself that one of the reasons that it has so much energy is because it holds that position in
it
the
does.
park, and it is significant, and that,
Hmm.
you're not just being I want to say you're not just it's not all about you, it's all about it,
No.
and
Hmm.
actually removing your ego from it, and then
100%.
letting it letting it give you what it will give you, and being
Hmm.
happy to absorb that and accept that.
Yeah.
And that sounds all
Hmm.
very woo woo. um but the world is very, very woo woo. It's just what level you're prepared to allow.
Exactly.
And
That's
so
what it comes down to.
yeah, I look at
Hmm.
our what we do, and I go, in the sense of how we operate on this very, very surface level of it's all about us, it's all about our ego in this space, on this place, in this whatever we want from it, not what we give to it. And um I would say 90% of my customers, that's still what they do. There is 10% that fall into the land as well, and
Mm.
they're getting that energetic shift from it. And to some degree, they're often artists,
Yes.
and
Usually.
yeah, or they're maybe people who are ranchers. They're people who there's a really
Yeah.
interesting distinction in there. There's some
Hmm.
people who just use the land, And then
Right.
there's other people who become stewards of the land, and
Yes.
they may be using it for their income still, or they may be
Sure.
using it this way, but they've
Hmm.
truly they've become stewards of it.
Yeah. Yeah. I've
Mm.
I've been finding too another crop of individuals that I've been working with are individuals that are just starting on their own spiritual journey or their own self-help journey, or they just started therapy and they're realizing if I'm going to keep making these changes, I want to make sure that my home and my property is aligned with the changes I'm making. And I've been seeing a huge trend in people coming to me in that dynamic of their
So
life.
give me some examples of that, because that I'm in love with.
Yes. Okay. So I recently worked with somebody who went through a divorce and, as a catalyst for that divorce, decided to start making changes in her own personal life. And so started going to therapy, doing different things, starting to witness where she was not showing up for herself in certain dynamics in that relationship, the divorce, etc. She wanted to make sure that not only was she going to continue to prioritize herself going forward, but when she does call in a relationship again, that she continues to keep herself in that dynamic. And so when I came to her home, part of the first phase of what we did was making sure that her home represented I choose me. I show up for me. Everything that's here is representing my growth and the person that I'm becoming. Anything that makes me feel sad or kind of feel almost weak when I look at it or represents a past version of me, I want to set that free. I want to leave it behind. And so that was phase one. Then what was really interesting, I came back maybe 6 months later, phase two. She said, Danielle, I'm ready for a relationship. What do I need to do? So we came back into her space, bedroom. Next to her bed, she had, because she was working on herself more, she was working out, healthier. Great. We love all of that. But next to her bed was a stack of weights. At the foot of her bed was a Peloton bike. There was, first of all, masculine energy in her bedroom now, right?
Uh-huh.
I equate exercise equipment and whatnot to that. And there was no room for anyone to get into a bed with her.
Yeah,
Right. There's no
yeah.
room for anybody else to come into this space. She had it so prioritized to her own self that there was no one else entering it. So she got rid of the weights, or we figured out another way to get all of that out of the bedroom. We softened the bedroom.
What
She got a different dresser.
to bring
Mhm.
her feminine energy into the space.
To bring her feminine energy into the space and to
Mm.
bring in space for someone else to be able to join her in that,
Mm.
because there was no room for anybody else in that room.
Hmm.
She also had her bed positioned in Feng Shui. You never want your feet to be exposed to like a big window because that can suck the energy out while you're sleeping. And so we switched her bed around so
Oh,
that she
really?
was parallel to the window, and that way it wasn't taking from her every night.
Uh-huh.
And so in making those changes and honoring that and here's the thing too, this happens a lot with especially with feng shui or any kind of space organization, someone will come in and help you rework the space, the maintenance. You have to maintain the space that has now been created, right? So she maintained that space. 3 months later, she met someone and I think they're together almost a year now from
Nice.
making, and so you look at that and you're like, you see how it all starts to coincide. Those moments where you're like, I'm gonna, work on myself. I want to
Hmm.
make my life better. But I
Hmm.
also realize that where I wake up every morning, that's a part of it. Where do I
Mm.
go to bed at night? That's important. Where I'm making my meals, that's important. Where I'm sitting and journaling, that's important.
Mm. I went to a friend's place the other day. She's an architect,
Hmm.
and I've been helping her with some stuff, and she lives in a different city from me. And anyway, I went to her home the other day, and she lives in an apartment, but in a very old apartment building. Well, not old,
Hmm.
old, but old.
Hmm.
Maybe 80 or so years old apartment
I like
building
it.
in
Hmm.
Melbourne, and it's got a really beautiful. The building itself has a beautiful energy to it. It feels like it's been around. It's got decorative elements to the building that there wouldn't be if it was built today,
Sure.
because there was I don't think there was ever any more money for craftsmanship, just craftsmanship was more valued. And
Yes.
anyway, you go up into her place, and when you walk through the front entry, you come upstairs sideways, and then a little landing and a little porch, and then you open the front doors, which are glass, and or the front door, and there's glass side lights. And as you enter the room to the hallway, um, so it's laid out like an old building would be. On the
Mhm.
left is her living room, and then the hallway goes past. The on the right is her bedroom, and then behind her bedroom is another bedroom, so they're like that. There's no ensuite. The
Okay.
end of the hallway there's a bathroom, and then like a laundry area, and then the kitchen is tucked in the far corner. All the spaces are reasonably generous,
Sure.
and she didn't have, or maybe I'm exaggerating, but if I am, not by much, one piece of furniture that sat against a wall in line with the wall. She had everything in angles. And I'm like, oh, hold on a second. So her
Ah,
bedroom was one
uh-huh.
of the ones that really fascinated me. So I'm like, hey, you've got to show me around and you've got to explain this shit to me, because why isn't this all lined up? And she has a very grounded energy, like incredibly grounded energy. And so I'm like, okay, so in the living room, she kind of explained how she has it that way. And in the living room, she actually has a dining area as well. In her kitchen, she
Sure.
has a small dining area as well. But in the
Okay.
living room, that's kind of separated into these two parts. But in her bedroom, she had her bed sitting on maybe a 30-degree angle. That meant that she had no bed head
Yeah.
behind
No
her.
support.
Yeah, no. So she had a bed head, but a low bed head, and behind that was windows, but on the straight angle. Work with me here. She then had a long semi-sheer um, curtain that hung from the ceiling, and to get to the space that was in behind, the space that was in behind had this amazing chair, this little table, and this big sheepskin that you kind of fell
Mm.
into this chair in. And I'm like, so explain this to me. And she goes, so it's something I do with the emotional floor plan. I kind of touched on it at this point with her, but I said, explain this to me. And she goes, oh, this is my space. And I said, what do you mean? Now, I know that she probably starts work about 10 p.m. and she probably works till about, I don't know, 5 a.m. and then she'll
Mm.
sleep. She's
Mhm.
she's kind of a night creature. Um, she was saying to me that often what she does, and she draws all her architecture by hand to start with. Often what she does is she doesn't go to bed. She goes to that space, and from it she's
Mm.
got windows around her, and she kind of hunkers in. It's got windows, don't go to the floor. She hunkers in just so that she can see out the
I
trees,
see.
the stars, all these things. She
I see.
cocoons herself in there. She draws and she writes and she journals from this
Mm.
space, from this little, and then she's like, when I go to bed, I've got a headboard, so that headboard kind of separates, and it's
Sure.
all timber. Um, so very natural and again very grounded. She goes, when I go to bed, I've kind of, my head's in that other, it's still attached to
Mm.
that other energy that I worked with. And I'm like, no way. I'm like, I can I sit in your chair? Can I
Yeah.
go in there? And she's like, oh yeah, jump in. And so I got myself into that spot, and
Yeah.
I sit in there and I go, okay, just I closed my eyes and said, okay, let myself. I switched on my alpha brainwaves and I went,
Mm.
let's just feel all this, because
Mm.
everything in the original kind of thing. I'm going, how does that work? How does that work? How's
Right.
that hold you? How's that safe? How's that all these things that I'm going through?
Secure.
I'm
Hmm.
using my beta brain waves to try and
Sure.
understand it. And then I'm going, hold on, hold on. This woman's very, very clever and very, very grounded. Um, what am I not seeing? What am I not feeling? What am I not allowing? And then how do I allow that? And it was fascinating. Fascinating. It certainly made me come back into my own home and go, the fuck, Adrian? Everything's lined up.
Look at this structure. Look at this. Yeah.
Exactly.
Oh.
Exactly. Like, what could it be if I allowed it to be?
Well, it feels like she brought in play, she brought in dreaminess, and she really listened to her own needs.
Yeah. And
Mhm.
it's a success story for her. So
Sure.
she's, ever the artist. It is actually very curated, but as the artist curates, you know,
Sure.
there'll be the things
Hmm.
that sit in certain spaces because she loves
Yeah.
that. But it doesn't mean that stays that way. It means it's of that time and moment. But yeah, like that, there were so many pieces. When you said, oh, your feet
Mm,
facing out the window, my
sure.
feet in bed face out the window. And
Uh-huh.
with that, um, they face to a thing that we call Mount Coolum. So maybe,
Okay.
how many miles away? Maybe 4 miles away. There's a great big chunk of granite that
Okay.
I'm sitting on, a chunk of granite, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
looking across miles away
Mm-hmm.
directly at this chunk of granite. And then to
Okay.
the other side, out on my right hand side, I see the sea. So I
Okay.
see that, and I see an island out there and stuff like that. But my feet face towards Mount
Mm.
Coolum. And when you were saying it, I was going, so I was playing this thing out with my friend she, and then and you saying it, and I'm going, okay, so if I was to shift that room around, do I want a space like she has? Probably not.
Mm. No.
Do I, what would I shift it to get the most energetic thing out of it? And then I know the Feng Shui principle that you're saying, and I'm going, it's a really good point. Should I be having my bed on this wall facing this way? I still get to see all my view. In fact, I might even get to see it better. Um,
Mm.
Interesting. It really perked my interest
Yes.
when you said that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And it's all up for a reflection. And there are things too, do you do you close curtains at night or do you keep it open?
Just shares,
Okay.
just some shares, some textured shares that come across because it faces due north. So due north is
Hmm.
your due south.
Yes.
So
Hmm.
you're due south.
Hmm.
And then
Okay.
on the eastern side, the room is elevated, but it sticks into the yard on the eastern side. And on the eastern side, we get our sunrise, of course. And you can
Yeah.
open the windows. There's actually Gelios windows on that side that are aluminium. You can open those and you can watch the sun rise through them
Mm.
over the sea. So very good for staring into the sun and all that
Yes.
kind of thing.
Yes. Hmm.
But that's the predominant angle that all our light's going to come in at the start of a day, and whether my feet face the wall or whether they face that view, it wouldn't change the
Right.
dynamic of the room works either way.
Right. So it's an inquiry. And
Yeah.
now you get to explore that inquiry and
Yeah,
decide if
right.
you want to
Shift
move
it.
with it or be like, you know what? I have a great connection with this. I don't mind that my feet are reflected out towards it. Because that could also be part of it too. You could make a conscious choice to say, I actually like that we have this vibe.
Mm.
Or I might want to see what it's like to soften it a little
Yeah.
and move the other direction and notice.
Yeah, that's so cool. That's so
Hmm.
cool.
Hmm.
I I think in different parts and times of your life, there's different things that you're looking for. So like that lady you were
Absolutely.
saying about, she was on a journey of um A, her self-discovery, B, setting her own boundaries around who she wants to be, but those boundaries are in growth mode, so who she will become. So she's got to let go, well, holding on and creating,
Yeah.
she's got to let go and
Mhm.
grow as well at the
Yes.
same point. So really
Yes.
this interesting kind of,
Totally.
you're on adventure, you're in an
Yes.
adventure. Um,
Yes. I often recommend, I actually had a session with someone earlier this week, and she's moving through a divorce, and she wasn't sure, do I just buy a home or do I get just a condo for, the time being? And I was like, I highly recommend the condo for so many reasons. But first of all, you just need a space to be held. You need a space that feels safe and supported and where you can grieve, where you can rebuild, where you can re-identify, where you can get to know yourself in this new identity that you're reacclimating yourself with, really. And
mm,
she's an artist as well. And I said, what you're doing is you are preparing yourself to then invite in the home that's going to be able to hold your becoming.
mhm,
And you'll be able to, because she was like, I just feel like my creativity is gone and I just want to like get into a house and get it all set up. And I said, it's probably not going to be that seamless. And so why not give yourself the grace? And financially, it made more sense to do the condo first
mhm,
anyway. So I was like, give yourself that grace to just be in one spot. Try not to make it be anything more than what it is. Try to find a place that has more nature so that you don't have to be in charge of decorating and let the nature be that decor. And
mhm.
then soon enough, when you feel ready, you'll know where you're supposed to go. You'll know what kind of home you need. Because I see it so often where people will move
Mhm.
into, and it doesn't just mean divorce, right? It can be any kind of
No,
transition. It could be moving to a new city even, right? You
no.
move to a new city, you think this is where you want to live. You think this is,
Mhm,
but then you might find, no, actually, I like this neighborhood more, right? So
mhm.
I always see that like when you're in a transition, having a transitional home actually is really beneficial. And then, move into the next
I
space.
remember from years ago, somebody talking about, with making good property choices, and that
Hmm.
was renting in the area that you think you want to live in and
Yes.
spending the six
Yeah.
months in a rental in that area. Now, you may want to stay in the property market. So if you do buy something but don't necessarily live in it, so that
Yeah.
holds your position in the property market, depending on how it's moving and what's happening.
Hmm.
But renting in a space that um, you can discover the energy of the neighborhood, you can discover the mood of it, and then looking
Hmm.
to buy in that neighborhood, or getting out of that neighborhood because it
And being
it
like,
doesn't.
phew,
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
not what I thought. And that
yeah,
happens a lot where people will visit a place and I'll say, okay, I love that you loved it when you were visiting, but
yeah,
now you need to experience it as a resident. And that
yeah.
can be two different energies. There's places I love to visit that I
Hmm.
never would want to live in.
I've
And
got
vice
hundreds
versa.
of
There's
them.
places I've lived in that I wouldn't really go back to very much because they were just more of a home base.
Yeah,
So, yeah.
isn't it?
It's
That's a really interesting transition for people, when they're moving. And I often try and work with people but before we design or before they, if I can get them before they buy land
Yeah.
or buy, before they commit. There's obviously overlays and things like that are, like slips or habitat or whatever. There's things. So what are those? And then where can we position a home? Where should we position a home?
Mm.
What would we do with that? And then look at multiple spaces. And then also, who are they as a person? So, like, I'm about to design a house for a person who is built a massive business globally, um, and is a real visionary, like a incredible visionary. And she is, well, her and her husband, that I'm going to move from being on kind of the side top of a hill where they have this big vision and outlook to somewhere, the piece of land that they bought is going to have them more cocooned. And
Mm.
I'm like, okay, this will be interesting because the person has built this huge visionary business and helped hundreds and hundreds of other people build, their wealth and their beings. And I'm like, my first initial beta brainwave thinking was, oh my God, you can't be here. You can't go down. You need to come up, stay up,
Mm.
because that's where all that vision is.
Yes, the elevation.
Yeah. And then but I shut up and listened and questioned and listened. And she doesn't need the elevation anymore. She
Mm.
actually needs to be able to, she's very grounded, but needs to be able to cocoon more for these next years in her life.
Mhm.
There's plenty of travel that she does, and she's got homes overseas and stuff like that. So, or they have. Um, Her next journey is something that's not about the big. It's about close, or closer. And so, in
Mm.
questioning them and her around, her plans for the future, business wise, and all these things, all of a sudden, it gave me the insight. And when I went and walked on the land and asked, I was with her, but I'm asking the land, is this her space? And if it is, then where is her space? And take me to the magic. Now, she'd identified pieces of magic. I'm saying, okay, talk to me about, I know it's got a couple of overlays on it that are going to have some challenge, and just things like that. But yeah, really interesting I suppose, walk the mile in her shoes,
Mhm.
and
Yes.
blend our energy to walk
Hmm.
that mile. Yeah,
Yeah.
so
No, that's
fascinating.
beautiful.
Mm,
Right? Truly
mm.
is.
And everybody has a timeline, story, place, everything
Yes.
else. What they needed then isn't necessarily what they need now. And what they
No.
need now isn't necessarily what they're going to need in the future. And how do
Yes.
we have boundaries and know ourselves, and then be able to grow into more of ourselves?
Exactly. And create expectations around that. And, we are blessed to live in a world now where that's more possible, where people didn't have, it's interesting. We were nomadic originally, and then somehow we got very landlocked where people did not, you didn't leave your house, right?
Mm.
The home that your grandmother had or grandparents had was your grandparents, then your house, et cetera. It was like this
Of the
part of the
land, like,
lineage.
yeah.
Yeah.
Mm,
And so, but now it's more welcomed and embraced to say, oh, I am going to go explore somewhere else, or
mm.
this flavor of my life is now asking for this.
Incredible, eh? So,
Hmm.
look, share maybe some photos of stuff with us,
Sure.
and tell us about how people work with you and what they can expect from working with you.
Yeah.
Because if they haven't gathered by this point in our conversation, which has been a bit random, and we can get
Here
into
for it.
even being a ghostbuster if you want, but any of those
Yeah.
things, but like, um, yeah, if there's a connection there, this is who you are, this is what you do, this is how it brings value, and this is why, this is what it does when we connect better with space and land.
Yeah.
Um, so we're yours.
Amazing. So I love that our conversation was random because that's what happens as soon as I step into somebody else's world. Anything can happen, and that's a beautiful thing. But to streamline it, essentially, individuals work with me because they know that I'm able to read their home and their lives in a way that they can't, to help them see their blind spots within their home, to
Mhm.
then help them see where they're not holding space for themselves. So it becomes this energetic exchange from that perspective. But then further, why we bring in the feng shui, why we bring in certain techniques around how the home is held and orchestrated is because it becomes this reminder. And it also allows the flow to be orchestrated in the best way possible. So
Sure.
the one of the principles of feng shui that I really love is just the water technique. If water was to flood into your home right now, we're saying safely, flow into your home right now, would it actually be able to move through your space? Or would there be random, items or boxes or clutter or things you have to return or, doors kind of like half open, half closed, and it wouldn't be able to seamlessly move through your space? That's what we're looking for. We're looking for how do I allow my home to have that beautiful flow where the water could just literally in the most beautiful grand way, think of the most beautiful tide coming in, and that tide just comes into your home and it just spreads itself all out. That's the feeling we're going for. And so my role is how do we allow the home to operate in that way? And how do we adjust what's going on within you to meet it where it's at? One of the things when I'm working with a client, the first thing I want to know outside of clearly, I want to see the floor plan, photos, all those things, how long you've been here, what are your intentions for the space?
Mm,
And how do you want to feel in it? And
mm,
that throws people off the most. They're like, what do you mean what intentions I have for it? And it's like, no, what is this home going to give you? What is it
mm.
going to provide you? If there were a day where you were to leave, 2, 3 years from now, what will you say happened in this house? That's the intention that we're setting for it.
Oh,
And
I love
further,
that.
right?
Mm,
And when you do that, what you're doing is you are programming it. You are wiring it. Just like when you install an app on your phone, you're saying, I want this app to do this. Well, same thing that we're doing in the house. We're installing these intentions, and then what we're doing is we're upgrading them accordingly so that they start to work in the way. We talk about smart homes,
mhm,
electricity, just how you turn on a light. What if you turn on your dreams the same way in your home space?
mhm.
Just like you can from when you're not even at your home, you can control the temperature with your phone. We can do the same thing energetically. And so that's what my role is. And it then further, this is where it gets woo, I'm able to go in and notice, okay, what's going on here? Are there spirits here? Is there negative energy here? Is there energy that still exists from other people? One of the biggest things that when people tell me their house is haunted or they think there's a ghost, I would say half the time there is, half the time there isn't. When there's not a ghost, usually what's happening is there's a haunting effect. Maybe their partner moved out of the house and they didn't. Maybe a pet passed away. And because of that, that person is either still holding on to the grief or the sadness, and the sadness, the home thinks it needs to hold that sadness with you. So we have to find a way to honor it and
Yeah, I
release.
love that.
Also, what can happen is somebody's energy could still be in a space. So let's say
Mhm,
you live with somebody. You were living
mhm,
together for years. You lived
mhm,
together in this house for 10 years. For whatever reason, they moved out, you couldn't move out or you don't want
mhm,
to move out.
mhm,
That person, let's say you pretty much had the same flow in this home. Every morning, that person that lived with you got out of bed, walked around the bed, walked into the bathroom, used the bathroom, came out, brushed their teeth, came out, went and made coffee. That is creating an imprint in that home.
mhm.
That home every single day was running that frequency, was running that hardware. And if you don't uninstall that hardware, guess what? Their energy is still moving through every single day. It's still getting out of bed. It's still going to the bathroom. It's still making its coffee. So we have to pull that out as well and truly release them energetically. It's wild. That was one of probably my biggest things that I started seeing when I started working on homes. Then if we realize, okay, there's no like haunting grief or emotional energy, there's no old people's energy still in your space that doesn't belong to you, or people that lived there prior. Sometimes, too, people that lived there prior, their energy's still hanging out.
Mm, mm.
Then we can explore, okay, maybe it is a ghost. And that happens.
Yeah.
Ghosts can be, I've seen guardians of the land that have been there for a very, very long time. That happens a lot, especially in the United States. We'll see a lot of, indigenous
Yeah.
women that were, they don't want to leave their land. This is their
Mhm.
land. So
We
working
have
with those,
that. We have that
yeah,
here. Yeah.
it makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
So working with those energetics, sometimes I call them squatters.
Hmm.
Spirits will jump into your home. I had a client over the summer. She lived near a hospital. Someone passed away, jumped into her room. It's
Yeah.
like, dude, you gotta get out of here. So,
Yeah.
I make light of it. And so that can be a thing. And then there can also be individuals that maybe passed in their home and they don't know how to leave.
Hmm.
And so that can happen as well.
Mhm.
So that's like the range of what I do when working with someone. It's the coaching kind of vision board piece of it. It's the feng shui organization. It's the is there still an energetic imprint that's running in this
Mhm.
space from
Mhm.
something you experienced, or is there, a spirit?
Mm. Love it. I love it. It's the energetic imprint is something that I think we feel.
Hmm.
I certainly feel it. I think sometimes when you're designing a home,
Mm.
you're actually I'm definitely deliberately setting one up, which is really
You are.
interesting. Yeah. Also, when I'm designing a house, like everybody who designs homes is looking at what the circulation of spaces is and optimization of that, and then how things are adjacent to each other and how that works, um, and how it flows naturally and easily within its environment as well. Um, but then beyond that, I do something that I call an emotional floor plan.
Yes.
And in creating an emotional floor plan, it's kind of it comes from past memory to present memory to future aspiration. And in it, that's the coaching that I take people through to gain the right energetic feel for a space.
Yes.
And with it, it's fascinating how each space has different energy fields, and then if they're couples, which most of the time they are, how that um, whether there's more, if it's a male female masculine energy pushed into some spaces and more feminine energy in others, and that could be either from the masculine using feminine energy or vice versa, the feminine using masculine energy, and then being very aware of where that's happening, and then shaping the architectural environment to meet that
Mm.
energy, and the way they have lived, the way they want to live, and the way they envisage living longer term. Because it's a house. Even by the time it's built, they will have moved a year or two into their future. Um,
Mhm.
so those kinds of things are really, I find it really interesting to work with people into that. And then when we can work with people into that, they start to do that thing that you just said about being
Exactly.
able to turn their dreams on when it manifests itself into the place it was, that it comes off paper into reality. And if we've honored the land and the energetic feel of the land, and we're not over geopathic stress lines and things like that, if we've honored
Hmm.
that, if we've held that stewardship first, and then we move that next point to the physical of the house, which will alter some of that land feel. So
It's
how do
going
we,
to.
yeah,
Sure.
how do we honor both?
Yep.
Um, and then we're going to put the people in it that it's their it's their dream, and it's their vessel for their future. It's a
Mhm.
vessel for their future
Yes.
that's got to hold them.
Yes.
And it's got to, you said it, household, and
Hmm.
I wrote that down. The household. How's it going to hold them? How's it going to hold space for them? How's it going to allow them to breathe out? How's it going to allow them to grow? How's it going to allow them to transition as life takes them on their journey?
Exactly.
Um,
Yeah.
mm, I
And support them in the challenges as well, too, right? And the
absolutely,
ebbs and flows.
yeah. And no,
And
not everybody has the ability to go and build a new home. So
no,
then,
you don't
how do
have
we
to.
take homes that, yeah, that I
That's what I
love?
like to
Me
do.
too. I
Hmm.
love to renovate, and I love to go. These parts have a magic in them already.
Yes.
Um, and is that the magic that you bought this home for? Or is that the magic that you've lived with and is now ready to go, or is it the magic that you've lived with that means so much in
Mm,
holding the space? How do we
mm,
respect it, honor it? Maybe
yes.
upgrade it. Maybe maybe you're upgrading
Sure,
the
if need
software in
be.
there. Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
Exactly, exactly. It's all part of it. And it's a beautiful process.
Mm,
It really
mm.
is. And it becomes again more than just, oh, this is where I live.
Yeah, yeah. That I think is especially since COVID.
Mhm.
I
Exactly.
think that, COVID, for all of its downside, was a major blessing, and another side of people actually getting a view of themselves inwardly to their needs,
Yes.
and the narratives and the conversations that changed because of it, um, because it happened on, somewhat, we'll call it a global basis. It
Yeah.
actually shifted a consciousness where, with it, not everybody, but with a
A good
majority.
amount.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And then
Hmm.
so that actually gave the world, the energy, the
The
whatever, it
planet.
gave it, yeah,
Mhm.
it gave
Our
it more.
collective.
It accelerated it, or it made it more accessible, it made it more available.
Absolutely.
Mm.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I was living in Philadelphia at that time and I moved during the pandemic because I realized I was living to live in a city. My favorite thing to do in Philadelphia was to walk around and I loved going to the older sections and seeing the architecture and seeing the buildings and the cobblestone streets and being able to walk to get my coffee and coexist with the city. And when
Mhm.
the city was taken away, while I liked the place I was living in, it wasn't, the exchange didn't work anymore. And so that's when I was like, okay, it's time to go
Time to move.
because yeah,
Mm.
it's shifted. Could I have stayed and made my space more?
Of
Yeah,
course. Yeah.
but for what? For what purpose? To then
Yeah.
and then to constantly feel the frequency around me that was not in alignment? No, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when you're working with people, do you work with
Mhm.
people everywhere?
Yes, so I do, clearly in person, and
Mm.
in Austin area, or I've had people fly me to where they
Mm.
are if they want to have that in-person experience with me. But then I also am able to do it remotely as well. And so with
Okay.
the remote, we'll do it via Zoom. And then what I'll do is sometimes, depending on what the situation is, I'll work offline. So spirit is a
Of
good
course.
example. If there's spirits, a lot of times once we kind of have the exchange, I'll be like, okay, I'm gonna go, when we get off this call, I'm gonna go have a little chat.
Yeah,
I'm
exactly.
gonna go.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
gonna.
I'm going to go meet with the board of directors. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly. Yes, yes. So, speaking of, do you want to see a spot where
I
there was a
would
spirit?
love. I would love.
Okay.
Yeah. Let's do it. Share your
Okay.
screen.
So, let's share it out. So, see this space here.
Yeah. Blow that
Okay.
up
So
for
we just
me.
see
Yeah.
chimney, whatnot. So this
Uh-huh.
home was completely torn down with the exception of this guy right here.
Mm-hmm.
And this was the indoor, this was the living room, and the fireplace was actually inside the home.
Right.
And so what happened was when they rebuilt the house itself was fine. But what was not fine and what kept causing problems was this freaking chimney because it was or the fireplace because it was part of the old house.
Right.
So um, and that was where I had the most difficulty because what was happening was the energetics and the land, and it was the land and the guardians of the land that were angry. They were upset that the home was disrupted. They were upset that the architecture was disrupted. They were upset that the ley lines were transformed because of this new space. Again, the new space was totally fine, but this was the issue. So then what I did was I got inside. So I got inside, and this is kind of looking up. I want you to
Up into
imagine.
the
I got
chimney.
in, yeah, I went into the chimney because that's
Uh-huh.
what you do.
Uh-huh.
And so I went in, and while you can't see it, what I was doing was I was using sage, which, sage is,
Mhm.
we really only want to use sage lightly, and we only want to use it when we really need to release something. And so
Mhm.
what was happening was I was using the sage, and it would make it up till about, here where the white is at the bottom. And then
Right.
what would happen was, even though that was completely open, the smoke would come back down onto me. It could not break through this barrier because it was adamant that it was like the energy was trapped. It was stuck. It did not want to leave, and it wasn't the land wasn't circulating anymore. The spirits were angry. So I basically, when I was in that freaking chimney, I had to like compromise and like it's sometimes hard to explain and it's going to sound woo, but I literally had to, it was like cobwebs, like energetic cobwebs that I had to
Uh-huh.
pull apart and open up and keep just lifting the energy and mimicking what the land wanted to be. So using my body as a spiral, using my hands as a way to create the currency that the land actually needed, and to also let the guardians know what their new role was as well. So I also had to let them know how they were going to be keeping the land from here on out. So there was like a whole conversation. I was in there for a while doing the release of the energy, the reestablishment of how the energy would flow going forward, and
Mm.
then letting the land guardians know what their new role was and that it, everything was going to be okay, that this is, people don't like change, neither do
Yeah.
spirits.
Yeah.
So
Right.
once I started to do all of that, then it finally released and I was able to get the smoke through the chimney and then able to get it to actually spiral out. So
Yeah.
that was
Wow.
it was pretty
Wow.
cool. Yeah,
Yeah.
I had fun in there. And it was great. It was such a nice feeling when I finally felt, when the sage was actually able to finally funnel out. And as soon as it did, I stopped using sage.
Oh,
And
right.
then I just did a little bit of Palo Santo. And then I did put some black tourmaline on each of the corners of the fireplace to just anchor it in.
Yeah.
So,
Wow. How cool.
yeah, so that's an example of that.
Mm.
There was another individual who, did I unshare my screen?
Yeah. That's okay.
Okay.
Go
Let me
back.
share it again.
Yeah.
Well, here, actually, I'm
If you're on YouTube, or if you're not on YouTube, come and have a
mm,
look at these pictures.
yes, come have a
Yeah.
look. So, make sure it's this photo one. No, it's the old one. Okay, so then there was another individual. Did this work?
Not yet.
It says failed to start. Please try again.
Mm.
Doesn't want me to share anymore.
Let me just
I
double
got too
check.
excited.
Got too excited. It's like you're
I
telling
got
too
too
many
excited.
secrets.
Let's try it this way. Okay, what about
There you
now?
go. We're there.
Okay.
Yep.
So this was an individual. She was
Yep.
starting her own business and she really wanted to activate her wealth corner. And so we
Uh-huh.
realized that this was her wealth corner. Now, when you first look at it, you're like, okay, this looks nice. But does it feel like it's,
Wealthy.
and usually the wealth corner in Feng Shui is also the southeast corner of your home.
Right.
In traditional Feng Shui, it's walk in your door, walk as far back as you can. The last left you can make, that becomes your wealth corner. That's another way to
So
look at it.
so in the northern hemisphere, it's southeast. Would it be northeast in the southern hemisphere?
Yes, thank you for clarifying that.
Okay.
Yes.
And
And
so
then it would be walking in and moving to the right.
right, so if you walked
Mhm.
into a home and you would go to the furthest corner, either to the
Hmm.
left or the right, depending
Yes,
on which hemisphere you're in. Um,
exactly.
okay. And then
And that becomes the
I'm
wealth
doing it in
corner.
my own
Mhm.
home right now,
Yes, I know you are.
and I have a fireplace there.
Oh, okay, interesting. Well, once I share this, we'll talk about what to do for a fireplace.
Yeah, right.
Because why it's called the wealth corner, what's happening is the way that those directions intersect, they do create a vortex of energy where things move faster. So you want to
Okay.
have things that are there that are going to amplify growth, whether it be money or wealth in any kind of way that serves
Gotcha.
you.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Yep.
So this individual, this was her wealth corner. It's got good energy. I mean, we see the little rainbow coming
Yep.
in.
Yep.
But I noticed, okay, she has a bowl of onions chilling in there.
Right.
Not really a fan of that. I mean,
Yeah.
onions are, make you cry.
Hmm.
They're pungent.
Hmm.
This plant doesn't look super happy
Mm-mm.
here. There's a box of tissues, which I guess you would have to use after the onions.
Hmm.
I don't like that she just kind of threw her dog's collar here. Also, we really don't want to keep any like storage or any kind of holding containers in our wealth corner. We want it to feel open. We want
Hmm.
it to feel like everything that's here I can see. Everything should be visible,
Hmm.
which is really important. So she was like, okay, Danielle, I'm going to do that. And this was her after. And how much better does it look
Yeah. Yeah.
in the after?
Well,
She,
it feels
yeah.
more inclusive, and it
Hmm.
feels if you can blow that up, blow it up,
Yeah,
because
I'm
it
trying to.
if it will. Yeah, I can see the difference. And yeah, it's
Mhm.
the same element somewhat.
It
Um
is. I
and
can't blow it
so
up.
with that, that's okay. With that, when we talk about those elements, if
Hmm.
let's just use the wealth corner as the example,
Yeah.
what would be the elements that it needs to have, and then
Yes.
what would be the elements that it shouldn't have?
Yes. So the elements that it needs to have, nothing, or it should have, so oranges, orange, gold, citrine. We want things that feel like the sun, that radiate out. We want things that stimulate growth, like healthy plants that are thriving. We want, and I like that this plant that she replaced it with is already growing, is already symbolizing, things
Yeah.
stretching in that way. I
Yeah.
like that the chair is now faced so it's easy to
Oh,
sit down,
yeah. Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
we want ease, we want flow, we want growth, we want bright, vibrant, yellow, orange kind of tones, crystals that symbolize wealth as well. And
Oh,
then I guess those
okay.
my
What
I'm
would be
tearing up over here. I guess those
yeah.
onions must have got to my eye.
What are
I don't know what
crystals? What are crystals that would symbolize growth?
citrine,
Citrine. Yeah.
pyrite,
Pyrite.
citrine and pyrite we really like. Clear quartz is another one.
Yeah.
Yellow quartz as well.
Okay.
And then I'm looking over at my wealth corner. Yeah, those are the good ones. And then yeah, I like oranges because they represent nourishment, abundance. And then we don't want anything fake. So I don't want a fake plant.
Uh-huh.
I don't want a
Ah,
fake
right.
like crystal that you bought at like some tchotchke store, you know?
Yeah, no,
Like
you
it's
want authentic, authentic and
authentic.
real.
Everything here needs to be real. It needs to be authentic. Some people like to put a list of their dreams. Make sure that you're being really honest about what you actually are asking for. That's the
Yeah,
thing too.
right.
I want intentional, authentic curation of what it is that you're calling in. What is it that you're actually expanding? And what do you feel that you have the capacity for when that happens? So it's also being honest about your current self and your current inventory for what you can take on going forward.
I like that.
Yeah.
That has a I used to train innovation, and systematic innovation, and with that, always your start point is what is there now, and
Hmm.
be real about it, not what will there be tomorrow afternoon, right now in this moment,
Yes,
what is there,
exactly.
and then
Hmm.
what do you want to keep and improve. Um,
Exactly.
and then you
Hmm.
go on the journey from there of what
Yes.
the you actually jump
Yes.
from there
Jump. You
to
leap.
you leap to what, when it's in place, what will people say, how will it feel, how will you feel, how will it feel, what will you say about where you are now that you've transitioned all the way to the end game in your vision, because that's how you'll know when you arrive, and then capturing that. So then we do our keep and improve, and then from our keep and improve, there's a whole bunch of things that happen. But with that, just as two sort of foundation points, what's the finished product got to look like? Jump back to what is it
Mhm.
right now, and then what do we keep and improve that will take us to our finish point?
Yes. And when you're in that wealth corner, you're feeling like the version of you that also has it already.
Yeah,
Yes.
okay.
Oh, another no-no. I see this a lot. Vacuums. I can't tell you how many vacuums I've seen in wealth corners.
Give me what you mean when you say a vacuum.
Like a vacuum cleaner,
Oh shit,
like a
really?
literal
Yeah.
vacuum, like a either
Yeah, a little
the
handheld wand or
yeah, the little
something. Yeah.
handheld. I see a lot of the dust busters, and then I
Yeah.
see the ones that are on the floor, the Roombas.
Yeah, yeah, right.
I
Yeah,
can't tell
yeah.
you how many times because it's a corner to put it in. I think that's what it is. They're like,
Uh-huh.
oh, here, let me just put it in this corner.
Let's suck all that wealth up and chuck it out.
Exactly, and throw it out. So we want to be mindful of that. So then the same person, she also had this plant that we see here. The
Yeah.
date is September 6th. She had this plant for a long time, never really grew, but she said, you know what, I'm going to put it in this in the wealth corner. She added some citrine. Less than 1 month later, look at it's a little pixelated, but you see it
Yeah.
grew.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, that's and she said literally, I've had this thing for so long. I just thought that it was going to stay here. So
That's
that just
amazing.
goes to show you
Yeah.
the power of
Yeah.
placement and
Yeah.
intention.
Yeah. And the months were getting colder, not warmer. Hmm.
Yes,
Hmm.
exactly. So it shows that you
And
can kind
it's
of
by a window, so it's in a high temperature variation area. I
Mhm,
don't know whether
mhm.
that was south, so the
Yeah.
southeast. So in the southeast corner, that's morning light and afternoon
Hmm.
light. Um,
Hmm.
yeah,
Yeah.
fascinating.
Well.
I know what I'm doing today. Well, part of what I'm doing today.
Yes, yes. And I actually have on my website, I have a free Build Your Wealth Corner guide.
Oh,
So
really?
basically, it takes you
Okay.
through the process of finding your wealth corner and then things that you can add to it and things that you shouldn't have. So it's all broken down in that. And it's on my website.
I'm gonna go, that's gonna become my little thing for the next couple of days. I'll take
Yeah.
a photo pre and I'll
Yes,
take a photo post and I will send them to you.
please do. Please do. I love Wealth Corner before and afters. They're my
Yeah, I
favorite.
think that would be really fun to do, and just
Hmm.
I already know things that are going that will sit there. So and it has to change in my case because it's a fireplace. So it
Oh,
actually
yes.
has something different in the summer and the winter.
Exactly. Its purpose
Mm,
shifts.
mm,
And so for you, it's being really intentional about that when you're not using it for an actual fire.
mm-hmm,
What is it holding? What is it because it's the hearth,
mm-hmm.
right? So how is it acting as the hearth? And then when it is winter and you're using it and the fire is activated, what is it turning on?
Yeah,
And it'd
right.
be really cool to do a transition from the season, like when you're ready, right before you do your first fire.
Yeah.
I feel like
Uh,
to do some kind of transition into that.
yeah, let's do that. That would be fun.
Yeah.
Should I still carry fire in that area, which I could do with
Yes.
candles? Should
Hmm.
I still carry fire in that area? It's my summer months as I work through this next piece.
Great question. Yes, you should. You don't have
Okay.
to light them per se if you
Hmm.
don't feel called to, but you are letting the fireplace in that area know what its purpose is and keeping it active in that. And
Hmm.
then in turn, what is it going to do? It's going to keep you active in that wealth container.
Hmm. I like that.
So yes, so candles or
Yeah.
anything else that might symbolize, even if you had some cool like a wooden sculpture or something that feels like logs or without it, I know you wouldn't
Yeah.
make it
Yeah.
too
I know what you mean. Yeah. 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 Yeah.
driftwood or
Yeah.
just something that feels uh like it
My
sets it up.
my
Hmm.
fireplace is actually freestanding, and
Oh, okay.
something that I haven't done, but I could do, is because it's fire season's gone for me. I don't have any timber underneath it. So normally
There
I
we go.
would have a stack of timber underneath it. So
Hmm.
maybe I'll bring some
Yeah.
timber back in
Hmm.
underneath it, but
Hmm.
maybe a little more curated. I might bring
I
in a
was
timber box with
simple.
some simple kindling and stuff in there.
Hmm.
But then
Yes.
I'm thinking that because it's freestanding, it's got a flat top, that I will put some golden brass, those kind of things on the top, but then add maybe two, three candles on there as well. And
Hmm.
I will light those at night. I'll
Yeah.
light those at
Yeah.
night. And I
Sounds
have
beautiful.
a chair that's really close to there, and it's often the chair that I go and sit in,
Mm.
and I'll take my pad with me. And I don't necessarily work. I more just kick
Sure.
back and will play with ideas, play with future ideas. It's like a little, it's in a big room, but it's an escape.
Right. Well, it sounds like the perfect setting. It sounds like you
Mm.
already knew
Mm,
it was your
maybe just good
wealth
luck.
hub.
Maybe just
Mm-hmm.
good luck.
Yes.
Danielle.
And then of course keep it tidy and
Oh, of
dust.
course. Yeah, no. Yeah, I'm a bit
I mean, I
uptight
know
about.
you will,
I'm a
but
bit
just
uptight
for
about
all the
that.
for everyone.
Yeah,
Hmm.
exactly. That's
Yeah,
been so fascinating. I would encourage anybody listening, reach out, see what this can do for you and your life and how you live and how it can improve that and anybody else's life that you touch at the same time, and bringing people into your space and into your home. I know that we could do this over and over again,
of course.
with different things. So we will plan some more together where we'll do this something again, maybe a little more structured. I don't know. We'll see. It's unlikely to be that structured. Um, but sort of like maybe, these kind of maybe what I'll do is I'll do my wealth corner, and then
Yes.
in a month or so, we can dissect it. I'll take some
Love that.
now photos and then some future photos, and send them backwards and forwards and go, okay, well, maybe, and then we can do, yeah, we'll make another podcast
Sure.
about
I love
about
that.
about shifting energy in places. I had a
Mm.
had a story quickly, which was a friend of mine. She bought a house around the road. She wasn't a friend of mine then. I met her, actually met her through her partner. He was the first person I met, and through that I met her. And she told me this story about manifesting. I was saying about that lady you were saying. So she was single, and she's pretty um, energetic, would be the best way to put it, and pretty determined and driven. Anyway, she went, I'm single. I don't want to be single anymore. What am I going to change? And so she shifted clothes out of a piece of her closet. She emptied a drawer in her bathroom and put her stuff. She had a double vanity. She just started putting everything of hers by one basin and left the other basin for somebody else. She started sleeping on one side of the bed, but taking the cushions off the bed and folding down the other side of the bed for somebody else to get into.
Wow.
Um, she did some other stuff. I can't remember the other things.
Sure.
Oh, she started
Hmm.
parking on one side of the garage instead of in the middle. Um, anyway, long story short, she did manifest her partner. What she did was she envisaged her partner to be a certain person, and it ultimately failed. But where it failed was, it took several years. They got married, they did all these things. It took maybe 5 or 6 years for it to fail. But ultimately, it was that she never allowed him to be his authentic self. She put the demand and the energy and the pressure for him to fill that gap for her in ways beyond what she'd originally asked for.
Hmm.
Once it
Interesting.
became situational, she then was like, oh, but this, she pushed and pushed
Mm.
until she destroyed it.
Yeah, she
Yeah.
she controlled the narrative. Well, she did control the narrative a little bit, even in I'm calling him into my
Mm-hmm.
home, into
Mm-hmm.
my life.
Mm-hmm.
And so there was a, even though it was welcoming, there was still a little bit of that control.
Mm.
And so then it seems like that continued.
Mm. Yeah,
It's
very
like
much so.
now that I called you in, you're mine.
And you'll meet my expectation. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is what I
Yeah.
expect. Yes,
Yeah.
yes. And it doesn't happen in a literal way, but in hindsight, when we look back, it's
No,
like, oh,
I look back on it and I go, so he wanted to please, and he also wasn't necessarily in his chosen
mm,
environment at the start.
no,
And so it wasn't an energy that came together, and like if they had not gone to that house and they'd gone to somewhere else,
sure.
he lost his, by being a pleaser and being, wanting this as well, he lost his boundaries and then
Autonomy.
lost his leadership. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, that's a
Really
great story.
interesting.
It's
Really
really
interesting.
interesting,
Yeah.
right? And so that's why it is nice if you can move into a new space together, or if you are going to move into someone's space, take things out, rearrange, it has to feel like it's a
Yes.
union.
Yes.
Hmm.
Oh, fascinating conversation. Thank you so, so much for your
Truly.
time
Thank
and
you.
all the gifts you've shared this morning. Well, my morning, your afternoon.
Yeah.
It's been brilliant. Thank
It's
you.
been wonderful. Thank
Looking
you so
forward to
much.
doing
I
more.
enjoyed it. Yes, I can't wait to see how your wealth corner evolves.
Yeah, me too. Absolutely. Thank you for tuning into our conversation. I hope it left you both informed and inspired. Don't forget to subscribe wherever you listen. And please don't hesitate to share your design thoughts with me. It's always a joy to hear from you. If you're like me and crave a deeper dive into design thinking, coupled with a love for travel and adventure, consider one of my architectural adventures. Join me and some of my wonderful design friends and embark on a journey of a lifetime. Apply for an unforgettable design experience at adrianramsay.com. With our clients spanning the globe, I firmly believe behind every great project are great people. If you're a great person and seeking to turn your dream into a reality, I'd be honored to design your home with you. Why not join the ranks of our exceptional clients and let's make your heart sing? Reach out to me at studio@ardesignhouse.com. That's studio@ardesignhouse.com, and let's get a conversation going and make your heart sing.